All right, welcome, Buddy Book Club. I'm Dylan here with my fellow bandmate Keith. What's up, buddy?
Hey, how we doing?
We're also welcoming back Tucker, aka Billy Dunn, and I appreciate that you're in the dress. Tucker, hopefully you can help us from making a good thing bad.
I will do the best I can. I always try to method podcast as much as I can for optimal performance. So glad to be here.
You stopped drinking today, too. Usually you're drinking by now,
I was hungover
right?
last time, so.
Oh, I thought you're sober.
I'm cleaning up for this tour. Yeah. I'm going to be better this time around.
Well, here at the Buddy Book Club, we're baking down some box office bangers, and this week we'll be discussing Daisy Jones and the Six. Came out this year, 2023, on Amazon Prime, off of the hit by our girl Taylor Jenkins Reid, her novel. The three of us sat down and discussed not long ago. It feels like it was just yesterday. I don't want to get nostalgic like this whole movie was, so we're just going to keep going. But if you'd like to recommend a book or movie for us to read or watch, you can visit our website, buddybookclub.com, or slide into our DMs on Twitter or Instagram, Buddy Book Club Podcast. You can listen to us on iTunes and Spotify, so please download and subscribe. Let's get right into it. Tucker, I want to know what you got for Stock Up. You were the one that really brought this book to our attention. And from my memory, I was anti anything Reese Witherspoon book club. And next thing you know, we're on a Taylor Jenkins Reid high with this and Seven Husbands. So what do you got for Stock Up for Daisy Jones and the Six, the TV show?
Stock up, fake music.
Okay.
When we finished the book, when we did that episode a few months back, I was a little skeptical, rolled my eyes when you get to the end of the book and the author just had lyrics sheets, and she just made up all the lyrics of these songs. And so then I was skeptical again when they said that they were going to turn it into music for the show. And I think I probably rolled my eyes a few times after the first couple of episodes. But some of those are now bangers that I've got in my 2023 playlist. So I thought that was really well executed and really savvy move by our girl, Tay GR. Now she's getting book royalties. She's getting song royalties because she's getting credit now for writing that. And she's getting Vig off the TV show. So well done by her.
We love Vig. Yeah, I completely agree with you. The music, it bangs. I was just listening to it on the car, getting amped up for this. I liked it a lot. And I don't really like that genre of music typically. I know it's supposed to be kind of somewhat similar to Nicki
Minaj?
No, it's supposed to be...
Stevie Nicks?
Stevie Nicks.
Okay.
I know there's a Nick in there.
We were looking for Fleetwood Mac.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you give us Nicki Minaj. Close.
Inspired by.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I mean, that was one of my stock ups as well, because as a fan of Lord of the Rings, within that book...
How's that tied into
Hold on.
this?
Grab your seatbelt, okay? Relax.
All right.
As a fan of Lord of the Rings, within those books, there's a lot of songs. And I just skip them. As much of a fan I am, I'm like, I can't read. I don't know how to read lyrics. I don't know what beat we're going on. I just skip them. And I kind of did the same with this book when we read it. So I had minimal high hopes for the music itself. I knew they would do a good job, but I thought they would kind of just rewrite the whole thing. I couldn't be more wrong. These songs are fire. At least half of them. Half of them are not that great. But that's just like any album, right? And in the car, when I was going back from the grocery store this morning, normally I put on an audiobook and I listened to that on my drive home. No, I went right to Daisy Jones, rolled the windows down, even though it was a balmy 40 degrees, and I just had a great time with myself. Stock up those songs. It was really nice to see that come together. And I think that's really, for me, the shining light of the whole series was seeing the songs like actually performed.
Fun fact, it is Daisy Jones and the Six. They are the first fictional band to top the iTunes charts. I found that out when I was doing a little bit of internet research.
This is Spinal Tap never did
Yeah, I
that?
was wondering about stuff like that.
Pre-iTunes.
Yeah, another fun fact too is I'm surprised this wasn't publicized more, or maybe it was, but the woman that played Daisy Jones,
Riley Keough.
yeah, her grandfather's Elvis.
Oh, yes.
So,
Yes, that's a
And
fact.
I think she has a really good voice. Like it's very unique too. I like it.
Didn't sing until she got this part.
Yeah,
And
yeah, that's crazy.
yeah, well, we'll get into that. But
Stock up Camilla. This was my least favorite character in the book by far, if you recall. But in the show, I was a huge fan. I think there's a big difference. In the book, she wasn't a team player at all. She was like, it's my way or the highway. She had this entitlement the whole time. Do you remember like her being like, this is what we do, this is what we're eating? This, she was like along for the ride. She was doing everything she could to help. Not only doing like photographs of the band, but also was like calling up places to get gigs. Like she was actually like chipping in.
Yeah.
Where in the book, she was just like, no, like I'm married to the lead singer, therefore I have just as much to say, which is like, wait, what? Obviously not the best look that she hooked up with Eddie, but I think she just did that more as like hurt people, you know what I mean? Like, so I kind of give her a pass on that. The only other thing I will say about her that I didn't appreciate in the show is she's like, Graham, you should really go for Karen. And she's like best friends with Karen. Maybe ask Karen if she's into Graham before. Like Graham goes up to her and just gets completely shut down after her telling her to go after him. I mean, it works out in the end, but like, help your boy out a little bit, you know?
She, at the party, she kicked that other girl like to Graham too. It was like, oh, you should go talk to Graham. When that girlfriend came over or whatever and was chatting with him, it like panned back to Camilla and she was like, like knowing nod, like, yes, I set that up. So maybe she had a backup plan. You know, you need a plan B and a plan C. And couldn't agree with you more. Once again, Keith, on this. I remember now that you're saying it, I had like deja vu remembering you hating on her from the book, and it made a lot of sense at the time. I think they fleshed out her character a little bit better for this, and also good job by the screenwriters here, because there is another member of the band who's not in the show. I don't even remember who it was. It's like the Pete Best of whoever this is, but it's not.
It was a guy that like didn't get interviewed. He was like, I'm not even getting interviewed for the book or whatever.
Yeah, you're right. I forgot about that guy.
Yeah. So like he was part, and that's why they're the six. And so the screenwriters wrote in like, okay, we'll add Camilla as like the honorary six so that it made sense. Otherwise, like it wouldn't have made any sense. So, and then they did a good job by actually making her part of the band, except for when she makes Eddie a little cucker there. So what can you do? My first stock up was Faking It Until You Make It. And this has been a stock up, I think, for me before. Ties right to our girl, Riley Keough, who, like I said, hadn't sung professionally or whatever the case is until this came out. And when she was getting interviewed to get the part, they asked her, can you sing? And she said, yes, I can sing. And they're like, sweet, well, you got the part. And then she had to go and learn how to sing, which amazing. But like Keith said, she's got the chops from her grandpappy there, the one Elvis Presley, and I thought she was amazing on it. I mean, that Daisy part, it has to be really hard because you're going crazy and also singing, and like it's super emotional singing. So yeah, I know nothing about singing. I know absolutely nothing about music besides that some is good and some is bad. And she killed it. She's in the good category for me. Tucker, what else you have for stock up?
1970s Pittsburgh.
Specific.
Hear me? Yeah, if I could go back in a time machine back to the 70s, I'd buy Pittsburgh stock, muni bonds. You could make the argument that Aurora was the catalyst that stole the crown from like New York or LA, take your pick, and made Pittsburgh the cultural force of America. Now hear me out. Okay. Aurora gets released in June 1978. After it gets released, Steelers win Super Bowl 13. John Stallworth has Moss numbers, 3 catches, 115 yards, 2 TDs. Beats the Cowboys 35-31. Pirates beat the Orioles in 7 games to win the World Series. Willie Stargell is the season MVP. Penguins lose to the Bruins in the quarterfinals, but you know they're in the conversation, right? Yeah. And then you cap it off in '79. The Steelers go back to the Super Bowl, win it again back to back. So just in those 18-24 months that kicked off with Daisy Jones and the Six dropping Aurora, Pittsburgh was just tour de force.
I love this take. It's the hottest and best take I think we're going to have. We should really just end the podcast now because that makes a lot of sense. Daisy Jones and the Six just got that whole city pumping up so that when their sports teams went to the stadium, they were probably still there from the night before when they saw Daisy Jones and the Six and were just ready to go. So yeah, I'm all on board for this.
Yeah, I went from being skeptical to putting my whole investment portfolio into that. So that was a great sales pitch.
I mean, just imagine just paparazzi on the street. You got Terry Bradshaw just popping pills with Daisy Jones. You know, you got Eddie and Lynn Swan just like crushing 40s, like just going to all the hottest Pittsburgh clubs. Like, you know, what a time to be alive.
Yeah. Tara's like, Daisy, have you heard of Tramadol? She's like, wow. She's like, I get it for free at my work. She's like, this is amazing. I love it. I'm all in. I'm not taking the DeLorean back to 1955. I'm taking it back to 1978. Keith, what else do you have for stock up?
Making it past 27, stock up. I don't know if you guys know the rule, like the 27 thing, where all like the famous people die at 27. And I feel like if you make it past 27, then you're fine. Like Mick Jagger, Paul McCartney, Steve Tyler, Joe Perry, Keith, like all these people that partied ridiculously hard, they're fine. And the key too is like, which sucks now, is that heroin and fentanyl are big, and this is a little depressing, but like back then it was just acid, cocaine, drinking, and like
the fun ones.
Those are the good
Fun
drugs,
ones,
right? Yeah, those are like, it sucks that it's all muddy, because now like you look at a lot of the 90s singers, they made it past 27, they're still like addicted and strung out, and they end up dying, past the 27. But if you made it past 27 in this era, you're good, you're golden, you're literally gonna live forever.
Yeah.
And that's what basically happened to Daisy Jones the Sixth. Like they made it past that age, it looks like. And they're all fine now.
And they
They're all
look,
good.
They look
phenomenal. They look, you could argue, too good.
Yeah, well, it's only supposed to be 20 years later. It's not supposed to be like
Keith,
40 years.
They were drinking way too much water back in '78. There's like no wrinkles. I get that they have Daisy Jones money, so that they can pay for that to get fixed. But
You don't think Steven Tyler looks good?
But yeah, Daisy just looked like she had a different haircut.
Billy, they just like put a beard on him, and he looked younger after with the beard on. I'm like, wait, what?
And like a Lancelot haircut to make him look like some medieval times actor or something. Yeah, whatever. For my next stock up, it's not even a stock up. I just kind of want to discuss it for a second, but it's either singing translates to acting or acting translating to singing. But how can these people who don't sing or act or play instruments all of a sudden be good at that? And it goes both ways. I guess what comes first, the chicken or the egg? And I just want your guys' opinion. Does a good singer, can they be a good actor? Because like they're bringing that energy all over the place. Like could T Swift be the next?
She is an actress.
I know, like she has acted.
She's an amazing actress.
Okay, so yes.
Killed in 2 minutes of screen time in Amsterdam, but yeah, that's neither here nor there.
I think her commercials, she's fine in there, but like, could she be the next Julia Roberts, Or is it just like, if you're an actor, you just have the ability to sing a little bit? Like Sam Claflin or whatever, that's his name, right? The guy who played Billy?
Yeah.
He was talking about how he just took it as like a mimic job. He was like, okay, I'm just going to impersonate someone, because they were like, here, we want you to sound like this person. And that's part of acting, is just like, trying to impersonate someone else. And he just impersonated them like through singing. He's like, yeah, I did musicals and stuff as a kid, but I didn't like sing like this. So I just want to know, do you guys think it's good actors can probably sing, or is it like singers can easily translate back to acting?
Well, I'd say it's two things. One is like the lead singer is going to be different than like a drummer, right?
Yeah.
So I think a lead singer is kind of acting out front of the band. Mm-hmm. What's the guy? Is it 30 Seconds from Mars? That's like the amazing actor.
Jared Leto.
Yeah, that guy's really, really good. And then I think most of the people that are actors, they grow up doing musicals and things like that. So you have to
Interesting point.
have some sort of singing background.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you wouldn't be able to be an actor.
And then you got guys like Austin Butler, the opposite direction, who, if you guys have seen Elvis, is like the best part of that movie and crushes that impersonation. A person who is impersonated every single minute of the day still.
I haven't seen Elvis. Is Austin Butler the guy that plays Elvis?
He plays Elvis, yeah, and he knocks it out of the park. The movie's
crazy.
problematic for other reasons, which we can, I'll jump on for that pod. But but yeah, he does a phenomenal job, and it was actor, like no musical background, nothing like that. And I think he does really well jumping right into the Elvis vibe.
I always find it interesting when there's like an actor or a musician or someone that comes from some other place and then is really good at that. It's Masters Week. Adam Scott, I mean, he golfed obviously, but was a male model. That was his job. And then he was like, oh, okay, I'm going to take up golfing, and became a master, not a Masters winner, but he's won majors. Like, what?
The actor from Park and Rec?
Yeah, the guy from Step Brothers.
Yeah.
What a wonder.
Wait, they have the same name?
Stock up on Adam Scott.
Yeah, I didn't realize he was the male model and a golf player and in Step Brothers.
But yeah, hey, all I know is if they just like Daisy Jones was touring and these actors were there, I would do it. Also, Warren did play the drums before. He grew up playing the drums. And your boy Eddie there plays guitar, like had a band, plays guitar. And then Graham played guitar for like years and years and years. His dad was like a guitar player and taught him how to play guitar. So like everyone had a background except for the two main people, which I found to be fascinating. And Camilla was a model / Leo's plaything. So, but that's how Leo does. Leo doing Leo. Keith, what else did you ever stock up?
Well, just right in line with yours, Bandcamp stock up, because the reason that they were able to become NSYNC and as talented as they were is because they all went off to like a band camp, trained together, and made the album.
Who put the flute in their pussy? It's from the movie.
I don't. Did you go to band camp, hey man, when you were growing up?
No.
Because I feel like band camp's always got the kind of a negative connotation if you went away, if you're like doing the marching band. But they all went away and probably just like lived it up, you know?
Yeah. I was anti-camp. I didn't like the idea of sleeping somewhere outside of my own bed. I didn't like conforming to someone's rules. I didn't want to have to like wake up at 7 a.m. and raise a flag and all that bullshit.
I'm with you. I just didn't know how to vocalize that to my parents, so I just ended up going. You know, it's my cross to bear, though.
Point on the doll where he touched you.
Tucker right now via video is pointing at the private areas of the doll. That's right.
Got mic issues, guys, over here. I might have to drop.
Yeah.
Why is your doll doing weird gymnastics? Huh.
Yeah. I don't know.
So what do you got for stock down?
I only had one stock down, and it's stock down How I Met Your Mother. I don't know if you've ever seen this show. Have you seen How I Met Your Mother?
Enough.
An episode here or there. Yeah, sure.
All right. I mean, I liked it. It's basically like a 7 or 8 season rom-com. The last season of How I Met Your Mother, it's the exact same ending as this. They're like spoilers, but the person he ends up meeting, the mother, dies. The whole thing is like, oh, I should go talk to the other main girl, pursue her, even though your mother died, whatever.
Oh.
Anyways, it's depressing as shit. It's supposed to be like a lighthearted sitcom.
Mm-hmm.
It was one of the worst last seasons I've ever seen. It's just like, oh, everything sucks in life. Things suck. Your mom died, and now I'm going to go. Where the ending on this thing is actually, this is like a second life for him. This is like, it's uplifting, right? It's like a little different than How I Met Your Mother was. So I just wanted to say how much of the ending sucked. This one did a much better job of that, I thought.
So you're saying that you're in support with the deathbed hall pass.
I like cancer. Yeah. No.
But the hall pass from your deathbed is good for you.
Yeah, for sure. Are you one of those people that's like, what, if I died, you don't ever talk or marry anyone else?
The wife's Sicilian woman for sure.
What's that mean?
The Italian women, they don't wear anything but black after your husband dies,
Yeah.
and you just live a sad existence,
Crying
on your
at
own.
maximum volume for days on end. Yeah.
Just you pray, you wear black, and then you eventually die. It's as simple as that. There's no happiness after I'm gone.
Okay, noted. If your wife were to die, though, you're good? Or are you doing the same thing? Are you Sicilian?
Oh, yeah. No, I will definitely be in all black and do that
He's
thing.
winking right now.
We're not even in a video. What are you talking about?
Yeah. We're releasing the video this time.
Yeah, I just thought the ending... I guess we can talk about the ending now anyways, because I honestly forgot. I forgot that his daughter was the documentarian
Same.
for this, and it was quick, really happened quick. It was just like all of a sudden it's like, oh, you were there, how do you remember that? And then I was like, oh shit, right, his daughter's the one doing this. And it was like a quick little chills feeling, like, oh fuck, that's right. And then the hits come so quick right after that, for her being like, here's what mom said, showing it to Daisy, showing it to him. I thought it was a great ending. It just felt good, and it just feels so weird to me also, just the whole story of like them being in love, but him choosing his wife. It was a little odd just thinking about that aspect, but the viewing of it I thought was wonderful.
How about also recording Eddie and him being like, yeah, your dad was a dickhead and I banged your mom. And that's like,
Yeah.
that's all he
Oh
said
my
to
God. Yeah. Fuck Eddie.
Yeah, Eddie wasn't great.
And
at
all
this.
of his smirks like, yeah. Tucker, what'd you think of the ending?
I, like you, also kind of forgot about the twist, and I was actually so kind of sucked into the 1978 piece of the show. I felt like they could have spent a little bit more building up the twist instead of getting to it, and felt like that they were kind of like completing it just to complete it because it was a part that happened in the book.
Yeah.
And so I was a little bit more shocked thinking back to it of reading it in the book than basically what I saw on the show.
Yeah, because in the show was the last like 5 minutes of the
Yeah.
entire show was that. Whereas I feel like you could have slow burned it. I agree. You probably could have slow burned it a little more. But I guess we have to, once again, we got to, I mean, I know we're in stock down, but Reese, I got to apologize again. Just, you did it. Executive produced it. I don't know what you did. I assume not much, because I don't really know what you do when it comes to this book stuff. But at least you did it. That's all that matters. Even if you gave a couple shekels. Good for you.
This is going to step on my notes for recasting, but kind of a stock down on Timothy Olyphant. So he was the only actor that I recognized going into this show. If we're in agreement that he's probably the most recognizable person on the show, did you find it interesting that he was playing like the 6th, 7th, 8th most popular role in the show? And I feel like that Amazon is where you're going to like place your bets and put your chips, when it comes to like casting and doing that. I thought that was interesting.
I think he was one of the last people to be added to the cast. So I'm wondering if it was something along the lines of he really liked the book or something and wanted to be part of it somehow, pulled a couple of strings, said, I'll do it for nothing. And people are like, oh, it's Timothy Olyphant. Like, sure, we'll give it to him. But yeah, I do think he's definitely the most notable person that's on there. Although Sam Claflin, he did the Hunger Games movies. So my stock down is goatees. Basically, Eddie's goatee is terrible when he's older. It's the only thing I could look at was his goatee and his face. Actually, just everything about him is terrible in this whole thing. His hair, for some reason, just like bothered me. The old one.
Don't you have a goatee right now?
No, it's just there's a neck beard going on.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that's the third party I can confirm.
Yeah. This is what's nice to have a third party.
This isn't a goatee. This is literally all I can grab.
Totally unbiased here. Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
See, there's other hairs there.
Eddie's decision making was questionable from episode 1 through 10.
All of his decision making was bad, and that's why at the end when he has that terrible goatee, I was like, oh, okay, you haven't learned. Because the whole time, I mean, even one of my favorites is when he's asking Warren, some of us don't just want this boring life or whatever he says, like this simple life, whatever the case is. And Warren's just like, what are you talking about? Like, we are the biggest fucking band in the world. I'm going to go smoke a doobie looking out at Soldiers Field right now where there's going to be 80,000 people here in less than 3 hours. And then afterwards, I'm going to go spend time with my beautiful movie star of a girlfriend that I would only have got from being in this band. I wouldn't have met her when we were sitting in our garage. But Eddie's like, I want to be in a grunge band. It's like, gross, Eddie. Just because you have venereal diseases doesn't mean you have to hang out with other people with venereal diseases. It's disgusting. Hopefully it didn't...
Listen, there's nothing wrong with having venereal diseases, all right? Come on, let's...
Eddie felt gross throughout the whole thing. I hated when he was on screen. I remember Keith defending him the whole time we did the book.
He's a different
Can we pull up that clip?
Sir.
Can we pull up that clip right now?
I mean, the two people, Daisy and Billy, were way worse in the book. They're much, much more hateable. And this, even the only thing they're hateable about them is the fact that they adulterous, right? Like that's the only thing that's bad about them. In the book, they're so self-centered and only about themselves. They don't see anything else that's going around with the band. Like remember, like they took out the part which made Billy the most hateable to me is like Graham, his brother, is like going through some shit and he's like, "Hey man, can I talk?" He's like, "No, I'm too self-absorbed in my own things. Like I don't have no time for you." It's like, bro. You've come to me 1,000 times and you can't help me out one time. He's like, no, dude,
I
too
do
busy.
wish they'd put that in. That's a good point. And they are definitely self-centered in the show, but Billy towards his bandmates, you don't get a lot of. The only thing you really get is the one time when Eddie's like, hey, I know you recorded over me on that last album, like on the song. And that was like one of the main things why Eddie was so pissed throughout the book was because Billy just like didn't give a shit about him on the album, would just re-record everyone's stuff and then be like, yep, all right, cool, it's good with me, so we're gonna let it go, as opposed to like taking the band's feelings into consideration. And the issue with Graham too, but at the same time, Eddie just sucks. Come on, Keith. Sucked in the book.
Well, they made Eddie way worse. Eddie also, I think in the book, leaves the band, but he's like goes on to be successful because he's like actually wasn't a shitty, wasn't terrible at what he did. He like goes on. Whereas in this, they're like, not only did he suck, not only did he like bang this guy's wife, but he also was a piece of shit after, and he sucked forever. I'm like, oh, all right, I guess this guy does suck.
Warren's like, I was a session guitarist for some great bands, and I'm living on this beautiful boat with my beautiful family.
Yeah, he's on a yacht.
And he's like, I had a couple bands.
I have a goatee.
They were just okay. And now I grew this goatee.
Is Eddie D-Man Tucker, do you think? I think there's several
It's
songs
the
similar.
wagons are circling. It's said in that way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm slapping the bass, man. I'm slapping the bass, man. Let's get into love, hate. Keith, what did you love about Daisy Jones and the Six?
The real music, awesome. That bangs. Actors were cast well. I thought the chemistry between both Billy and Daisy and Camille and Billy was like good. It seemed authentic, which is like really the whole show.
Yeah, I don't know how they get that chemistry. I have no idea.
There were points in the show. I think they could have done a better job of making people a little bit more hateable, but there was points in the show where you were rooting for them and then also hated them. And the whole thing about the book was like there was no good guys and bad guys. Like everyone kind of had a shade of gray, which I thought was great. And they did a decent job of that in this. I think they could have probably done a little bit better, making people darker. But
What about you, Tucker?
I think what I really liked from the show and something I would like to see more of is just like some of the moments where the show's just kind of a bit more of a hang, where it's just like the band
yeah.
just hanging out together, like living on top of the world in the 70s, California, rock and roll kind of lifestyle. Like oftentimes like they're very much focused on the plot and like trying to drive that forward. But we talked earlier about there was that scene that Camilla has that party and she invites Daisy over and they're playing that Faces song. Like somebody breaks out the guitar and they're hanging on the backyard of the house, just like singing, hanging out. And there's like Billy and Daisy when they're hanging out at Teddy's house, just like writing songs. Like some of that stuff was really cool. I know this isn't like a behind the music show where it's really getting deep down into like how the songs were kind of put together. But I thought some of that stuff was kind of cool and a little more unique.
100% agree with you. I love those scenes, and those scenes like kind of balance the idea of being a wallflower and just like watching what's happening in those while also still driving the plot. And I do have to applaud the show for not having just super stretches of boring things where I would feel like, oh, okay, you could have cut this down by 2 episodes, because it was definitely a plot driven show. If anything, I'm with you where like you could have probably even stretched it out a little more. Although I will always side on the idea of like maintaining a plot than some of those shows that go like 2 or 3 episodes longer and it's like there's just nothing happening. I'm with you. I think they towed the line decently well, but I mean it's just such a fun time period and idea to be around that you just want to be part of it. You want to see what's going on the tour buses, you want to see what's going on while they're back at home living in LA and trying to come up with songs.
I wish they did almost like an Almost Famous. There's a lot more build up on Almost Famous of good times, right? Where this is like, even when it's good, it's like Billy being like, oh, I gotta go on a jog and I can't enjoy. It's like, you can go hang out with the crew and like not have a beer, right? Like I almost wanted that, like there to be a couple episodes span where things were good, and then when things went bad it'd be much harder hit, rather than like there's always some sort of drama. Like, I'm like, I didn't love that aspect. I wish they kind of built it up and then crashed rather than continuous crashing.
Yeah. One of my like stock ups was potentially going to be like the grass is always greener or something along those lines, because just the idea that this band is the #1 band in the world. They started from a friggin' garage in Pittsburgh. That was their dream, but they didn't think they were ever going to get there. And then when they're there, every single one of them is like so into their own issues.
Other than our guy Warren.
Except for Warren.
Awesome.
Yeah, Warren's like, I'm on top of the world. This is amazing.
He was also the only comic relief. I wish they showed Warren more. When he goes up to the actress and she's like, I'm really actually into drummers. And he's like, wait, you're serious? Like, that was like the best line.
Yeah. So, yeah, it's just for some reason. And I think that's for everyone, really, whether, you're a superstar or not. Sometimes when you're in the good times, you don't realize you're in the good times, and people just got to soak that stuff in. I also just had the scene when they played Honeycomb, aka Look at Us Now, when it first played, like the first time we as a listener are even hearing that song, and especially if you had read the book and you realize like how important that was to the book itself, and then the song is so good and it ties into it emotionally. That was a chill scene for me.
Yeah,
And the song was sick, and just studio sessions, super fun to watch. So I loved that.
The only other love, I don't think we called it out, but the dentist thing, that I thought that was hilarious too.
What was the dentist thing?
Bass player that leaves the band in like episode 1.
At least I'll have financial security, right, guys? And they all look at him and they're like,
Yeah, but also, like, what is he thinking? I was confused. Like, does he not understand that they're on a world tour or a national tour?
well, I think it's not widely publicized like what is now.
Or he knew and he was just trying to spare his self-esteem by just...
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think he
guess
just
that's
like
it.
tried to bury the idea that they were making tons and tons of money, and he was like,
Just in denial.
yeah, Tucker, what do we hate?
Keith touched it a little bit right here and here. I thought it could have been a little bit dirtier. Again, like it's 70s, it's rock and roll. Like there was tons of drugs. Like there a bunch of them were kind of hooking up. There was a lot of tension. I don't know if I'm desensitized by Pulp Fiction, but you could argue like one of the more dramatic moments in the show was when Daisy kind of ODs and Billy's like holding on to her in the shower. Remember, like trying to wake her up, and I forget what her Italian husband's name, like kind of like splits, and like that's how that episode ends. I loved a lot of the ways that the episodes ended. I thought they had good endings, good cliffhangers. But back to hate, I just thought that they could have been a little bit more graphic, and I think it would have done a better job to kind of hit some of the peaks and some of the more dramatic moments of the show.
Yeah, like when Daisy stepped on the glass, I wanted them to show glass shards sticking out of her foot, and Billy like just biting them and ripping it out. But I agree with you. I think that it could have been a little grittier. I mean, like you said, it's 70s rock and roll, and yes, they show them doing all sorts of drugs and whatnot. Although I would have loved a good acid trip. You know, give me a Sopranos style acid trip in there. This obviously isn't a family show, right? Because there's a lot of like drug use and stuff like that. Why not take it to 11?
Crank it up enough, you know?
Show some dong too, like, right? I mean, what?
Yeah, Keith, yeah.
Show Warren's penis. My only real hate was talking about the Nikolai character. I didn't like him. I didn't like the storyline.
Well,
with
they changed him from Italian to Irish. Like, what are we
Yeah,
doing
I
here?
know.
You're
They're
gonna
really
hate my people
They're
here, or
really
what?
screwing with you folks. Wasn't he Scottish? Didn't he have a Scottish?
I think he like Scottish titles or royalty or something.
And even in the book, wasn't he just a con man? Because Warren even says like he's just a con man, like he's not royalty, which is very possible that
Yeah.
he's not in the show either. But he seemed to have enough money to live in a pretty sweet spot, and I think he was more bumming around in the book until Daisy found him. He's obviously an enabler in both, and like telling Daisy like, yeah, take all these drugs, get all sorts of fucked up, but it's just the character I feel like wasn't the same, or at least he didn't hit. It didn't work for me for some reason.
He didn't seem that bad in Italy either. That's the thing, or that's where they met, right?
uh,
Or no,
They met in
Greece. Right?
Thailand. Oh, Greece.
They met in Greece.
Yeah, and
In the book, it's Thailand.
and
yeah.
he had a lot of
That's-
good points. I thought honestly, until he was saying, yeah, do more drugs. Up until that point, it was like all made sense. This doesn't make you happy. Like you're not yourself when you're around this guy. It's like, yeah, okay, that it doesn't make you happy. Like you need someone telling you that. Unfortunately, he's like, it doesn't make you happy, but cocaine does. So let's do more of it. That didn't work out. But yeah, so he was the only person that I really didn't hit for me. But who did hit for me? Teddy. I thought Teddy was phenomenal.
Yeah.
Phenomenal. Huge fan of Teddy in there. Glockenspiels, stock up. He crushes it. Every time I hear the Glockenspiels when I'm listening to the album, I'm like, that's fucking Teddy smashing those Glockenspiels. R.I.P. So we got Timothy Oliphant. We weren't huge. I didn't think he was bad or anything. It was just kind of like weird seeing him there. And I think, Tucker, you agree with that.
Two ways you could go about this. Be realistic and say, with the budget, pretending I know what budget that they had, they probably had enough juice for one somewhat prominent actor in Timothy Oliphant, right? So if I could kind of use that money and replace Timothy Oliphant with somebody else, I think I might go with like Johnny Depp and have Johnny Depp play one of those supporting roles, because plays in a band in real life, going back to our earlier conversation about actors being musicians, musicians being actors. He plays guitar. He could have been a musician. He could have been in the studio as like a session player. He could have been the tour manager. But he also just looks like a guy nowadays that's been around the block a few times, that's probably bumped into a couple of lines of coke. And does a phenomenal job of just playing unhinged characters. And I think he would have been great in some of those party scenes, just getting down and making things a little bit more interesting.
I like your bumps into a line of coke. It works on so many levels that I'm just a fan of that phrase. So
Unpack that one, D-Man.
I may be using that again. And I'm also wondering if you're picking Johnny Depp as the recasting because of Timothy Oliphant's scarf game in his later.
Probably rippling in my subconscious. Yeah, that's a good point.
The scarves were so Johnny Depp.
Not a scarf, but it's a French one. It's like a fancy thing.
The ascot?
Yeah, I think that's what it is, right?
No, but that's what Austin Powers wears. No, it wasn't that.
Don't bring up Austin Powers. That's just all class. That screams class.
Buongiorno, boys. So I guess, yeah, recast, rewrite, review. Keith, did you have any other characters that you thought might not have checked out for the way this was done?
I thought it was all the relatively unknown actors were awesome. The one thing I thought would have been cool if they were actually bumping into bands from the 70s then, and that would kind of ground the error and been like...
Just have Keith Richards, like, so much makeup on.
No, I mean, like, someone playing Keith Richards.
Yeah, it would have been sweet if they had an opener or someone that was somebody that was going to be good in the 80s or something along those lines, you know, like early 80s. Because it'd be like, oh, like they go by their opener, and it was just like, I don't even know.
Yeah, like Paula Abdul opening up for Simone Jackson. Yeah.
How did we feel about Billy? Because at first, I was really anti-Billy. I didn't think he was well cast. He grew on me towards the end where, I mean, the second half of the show, I was like, okay, he totally fell into the character, and I was in on it. But the first half, I was just like, I don't know if this Sam Claflin guy is right for this. I just also remember Pablo Schreiber from the audiobook just had that like gravelly voice, and it kind of showed like, oh, you know, this guy had been through it. Like he'd been through the ringer, and we got this kind of pretty boy in Billy Dunn.
So in your mind, you wanted more of like a Bradley Cooper, Star is Born.
Exactly.
I didn't have as much of a problem with 1978 Billy Dunn, but 2020 Billy Dunn, and we've kind of talked about how they didn't age when they were doing the mockumentary piece, but how many times did they just pan to him in the mockumentary and he was just sitting there just staring off into space? Like the 12-month drug binge that he went on, like unscrewed a couple screws in his head, 20 years later. I just felt like he wasn't really bringing much to the table.
I need more of the binge. I need more of the Billy binge to show the like how deep into alcoholism and drugs he was at that time. Because
it was a quick one, wasn't it?
Yeah, the montage was
out.
super quick of him just like not doing well on stage, and it was one tour. It wasn't even one tour. It was part of a tour. And then it's like, all right, you're going into rehab, and like you can never drink again.
Also, when he relapses, it was kind of a soft relapse. Right?
Yeah, like flask. How many ounces are in a flask? Let's show him take that shot at the bar when that guy buys him one, and he's just like around for everybody, and two for me.
Yeah.
Like
you're absolutely
obviously
right.
he
Yeah,
was
you're
drinking
absolutely
all day.
right.
I get that. They put the idea in your head that he was drinking all day, but I didn't. I need it on screen. I need them showing him back to back double jacks just all day, double jack on a double jack. Give me 4 fingers, something along those lines.
I like how we're celebrating alcoholism. We're like, yeah, well, let's get him to do more of this. Come on.
I just need to see it.
And he had like a bachelor party weekend. He's like, I'm
Yeah,
done. I'm like, oh,
exactly.
come on. You can't give him the game now.
Exactly. It's like having a bachelor party weekend, and then all of a sudden he's like, I gotta go to rehab, which everyone says at a bachelor party weekend, but no one actually does.
Right, of course.
And he pulled the old Tiger Woods move where he was caught having sex with a couple of women and said, I gotta go to rehab. That's gonna solve everything. Maybe it was just that. I'm surprised he didn't say he was a sex addict. Tell the wife. Probably in 1978, that wasn't hip yet. This on Rotten Tomatoes, this is a 69-81, so 69 critics, 81 audience. I was kind of surprised the critics went so low. I don't know what they were expecting. I feel like this is exactly what I was expecting. But in terms of rewrites, we did talk about this, how Camilla, in the book, they insinuate that Camilla cheats on Billy with like an old high school friend who's not Eddie. Her cheating on him with Eddie just makes no sense to me. One, Eddie's disgusting. Camilla is not, so she would not cheat on him with Eddie. Two, Camilla's so devoted to the people in the band, not necessarily the band itself, but like the people in the band, that putting their futures at risk for her to kind of get back at Billy and have her own secret, as she says, I don't think she would do that, with Eddie in order to obtain that goal, because it puts the future of the band at risk, and she believes in them so much. So I didn't really like that rewrite of the book. I think they should have changed it back to how it was. But I understand, I guess, why. What did you guys think about that one?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing was that Camilla, the actress, was just extraordinarily good looking. So
really
you can hook up with
ridiculously good looking.
any single person out there. There's no way you'd go for Eddie. It just wouldn't make sense.
Yeah.
And Eddie was like a shitty person, so
I could see the rewrite because they were just trying to like shrink the ecosystem, and they're like, if there's any chance for drama, let's make sure it's with like actors on screen.
Also, did you think Graham hated his life? Because he was like, "Oh, I'm so happy, and now that I have kids, and I didn't." And he like when he was thinking about the Karen stuff, he was like, "Yeah, like she told you about that." Like he still is in love with Karen. And he's like, "Yeah, but no, I'm glad it didn't work out, and I did this instead." And I'm like, "Oh, you look."
I think he's mostly just in love with the idea of the life that could have happened, and he was in love with that baby who got aborted. That was like his dream was to have a family with Karen.
But he was like, "Yeah, now I'm like a suburban dad, and I love it." Behind his eyes, he was like, "This is the worst thing that's ever happened to me."
Yeah, it was touching too when Karen said, "I didn't tell him the truth. I told him what he needed to hear."
Yeah,
because I was like, "Shit," you know what I mean? Like it's just tough because she loved him too. It was a weird situation. You would have hoped they could have gotten over it, but also like, Graham, get it together. Check in with your girl. She's obviously not super excited about this baby situation. He's like, "This is the best day of my life. I'm calling everyone." It's like, hey, read the room. Read the fucking room. We're gonna need a new keyboardist. Like, she loves her job.
Yeah, that was a tough line there.
Come on, like, what do you?
Did he really know Karen after all? Dropping a line like that.
He probably didn't,
Yeah.
because if he did, he'd be like, "You continue. You're the career-oriented person. We guitarists are."
He should deliver the baby himself.
Guitarists are a dime a dozen. I'm gonna take this fetus, shove it up my butt, and I'm gonna have this baby for you.
I'm gonna do this one for us. Yeah.
Is that how that works? Is that medically? Does that work?
Yeah. They had Daisy Jones money. They could do whatever they want.
All right, so that's Daisy Jones and the Six. We had the book. Keith, we had the show. What do you think? Would you recommend the show to someone that hadn't read the book?
I would recommend audiobook first. I think the audiobook really brings it to life. I don't even think you need the visual medium. I gave it the show a 2.5 buddies out of 4. So I think that's a lot of, I don't know if you guys feel the same way, but a lot of Amazon shows I think are the same. I'm all happy when I'm watching them. I'm like, oh, these are solid, but I don't remember them after the fact, and I don't think they're like super top notch after the fact.
Empty calories in a way.
Yeah. I'm like, oh, like this perfect for a plane ride. I watched this on the plane ride, and I was content the whole time on the plane, but I wasn't. I got back and I was like, what did I watch again? Like, it's one of those things.
Tucker, if you said like book or movie, which one are you going for? Book or show, I guess. Which one are you going for?
I would say book. And even though I'm usually a big stereotypical, like, book is way better than the movie kind of guy, like, I don't think it was that big of a difference between the two. Mm-hmm. And so I guess you could kind of go either way. I would definitely give it 3 buddies. I'm a little bit biased here because this is definitely kind of my wheelhouse, like 70s, America, rock and roll, that whole thing. But I just thought it was a really fun ride. It was really cool just watching them go from, starting out in Pittsburgh through the stardom and then crashing. I really think like the only person I wouldn't recommend this to are like hardcore classic rock fans who like know the entire Fleetwood Mac catalog and can tell you like all 7 albums before Stevie Nicks joined the band. Like, they're probably not going to enjoy it because it is very kind of like surface level, but I think it's a really fun show.
I think that's a good point. I would say I like the show myself. Keith, I'm with you 2.5 buds on that one, but I would do a cheat. I'd say, hey, if you have the time, I mean, the show itself is 8 hours long. The book's probably about the same. I'd say listen to the book and then have the Spotify album going on in between listening sessions, or as those songs come up on the book. Now that we have that album,
I'll really create the aura.
Oh, that works. Aura.
See my way out. There's the door.
You're too close to Mexico over there. You're getting confused.
I was going for aura, but aura is like now, right? But yeah, that works still. All right.
Yeah, so I think a mix of them both, but at the same time, hey, if you want some easy watching, and the chemistry between Billy and Daisy, I think made it for me. All right, Keith, what do we have on the horizon?
We got next Between Two Fires by Christopher Bruhlman, and then we're doing the Goonies. Goonies.
We're
next.
doing the
I've never
Goonies
seen
next?
It, so
Oh,
Yeah.
fuck. Yes.
Wow.
Yes.
Can't wait to tune in for that
I'm
one.
so excited. You haven't seen the Goonies. What?
no, I only know the "Hey you guys" line. That's the only thing I know.
What planet are we on? Yikes. I'm so
yeah.
excited. It's one of my favorite movies.
All right, we'll see if it holds
All right,
up.
so I guess we'll catch you soon for Between Two Fires. Tucker, thanks for joining us again. He's our Daisy Jones professional, TJR. When you got a next book recommendation, you let us know. But either way, this was Daisy Jones and the Six, the Amazon Prime TV show. If you want to check out the previous pod on the book, you can find it on buddybookclub.com, and we'll catch you for Between Two Fires. All right, bye now.
Bye now.